Hola, 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 Spanish ninjas. We are continuing our adventure with boot verbs. Yesterday, you were introduced to these tricky fellows in our first video, and we got some good practice, and you turned in your notes. Make a copy of those notes so that you have something to study from. Today we are doing video number 2, so we shall continue. Let's see what you remember from yesterday. Remember to be filling in your notes because you have to be turning these in. Number 1, what is a boot verb? Well, a boot verb is a verb that has a spelling change with certain conjugations. Number 2, why is it called a boot verb? These verbs are called boot verbs because the spelling change happens inside a boot formation. That means that the subjects yo, tú, él, ella, usted, and ellos, ustedes have the spelling change. They have the stem change. While nosotros and vosotros do not have the spelling change because they are outside of the boot. Number 3, is a boot verb ever called anything else? We all have some choice words to call these boot verbs, but they are actually also called stem changing verbs. So if you see the word boot verb or stem changing verb, they're talking about the same thing. That's important so that you're not confused. Boot verbs and stem changing verbs are the same thing. How many types of boot verbs are there? There are 3 types of stem changing or boot verbs. There's IE stem changing verbs, there's I stem changing verbs, or UE stem changing verbs. So there are 3 types. We're only focusing on IE stem changing verbs and only about 6 or 7 verbs. There are many, many more verbs. So just so you know that they're floating around out there, not to be surprised when you encounter a different one. Number 5. Well, where does this spelling change happen? Sometimes there's so many letters and you're like, oh my gosh, does this one change? Does this one change? Which one changes? I don't know. Well, there's a rule for that so that you will not be confused. You go to the AR, ER, or IR ending of your infinitive. Then you go one vowel before, and that is the letter that will change to IE. That is the letter that stem changes inside the boot. Remember, outside the boot, there's no stem change. So go to your ending, go one vowel before, and that will be the letter that changes. Number 6. Can I wear boots while using boot verbs? This is a very good question. So let's review with our verb pensar. Our IE stem changer, let's take note that it's an AR verb. What does pensar mean? You look awfully pensive today. Pensive in English means deep in thought. So pensar means to think. Remember that we go to our ending and we go one vowel before, and that is the vowel that will change inside the boot. So remember that your stems will be PIENS for the subjects inside the boot, right here. And remember, for outside the boot, there is no change. No change. Now the second part is to attach your AR endings. So think of what our endings are for AR verbs and we put them on the end. Put me on pause and finish this conjugation. The answers are coming in 1 segundo. Okay, here we are with pensar. As you can see, I have my IE stem change inside my boot. And outside the boot, no change. No change. And then I have my AR endings, pienso, For the to form, piensas, piensa for él, ella, and usted, amos, pensamos for nosotros, pensáis, my accented AIS for vosotros, and AN for ellos and ustedes, piensan. So see my changes inside the boot. So on your practice sheet, let's kind of talk about what you think about certain things. So we can use pensar to talk about opinions. If you think that something is a certain way. So it's a great verb. Like, what do you think? So look at the first one. Piensas que los Steelers van a ganar el Super Bowl? So do you think that, I have it right here in case you are like, what's that? Do you think that the Steelers are going to, now even if you didn't know this word, you could probably figure it out, win, because I have Super Bowl. Do you think the Steelers are going to win the Super Bowl? Let's answer it. I think that they are going to win. Yay! There it is. I think they're going to win. And if you want to do something pretty slick, you could just say, I think so. Let's get my little accents. Oh, accents during my videos. So, yo pienso que sí. Yes, I think so. That would work, but we'll make a whole sentence. Ellos van a ganar. So, ¿qué piensas de la clase de historia? What do you think of or about, see up at the top, history class? You could say, I think history class is fun. I think history class is boring. I think history class is good. Bueno, malo. So, why don't you give me a sentence answer for 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I made a note that regalos are gifts. So, and that looks just like it would, you'd think it would in English, receive. So why don't you give 2, 3, 4, and 5 a shot, and then I'll tell you what I said. Okay, so here are my answers. ¿Qué piensas de la clase de la historia? Yo pienso que la clase es interesante. I think that the class is interesting. ¿Piensas que hace buen tiempo hoy? Yo no pienso que hace buen tiempo hoy. I don't think it's nice weather today. See, my no comes right in front of my verb. ¿Qué piensas de la música de Billie Eilish? So what do you think about Billie Eilish's music? So I kind of played it safe here, and I said, pienso que, I think that, la música de Billie Eilish es diferente. And piensas que vas a recibir muchos regalos en Navidad? Do you think that you are going to receive a lot of gifts on Christmas? Sí. Pienso que voy a recibir muchos regalos. I think I'm going to receive a lot of gifts. So pensar is a super handy verb. Another handy verb is preferir, because you're always talking about like preferences, what you like, what you don't like. So preferir means to prefer, right? And how do you know where that stem change happens? Oh, there's so many letters. You just take the ending and go one vowel before. So this E will change to an IE inside my boot subjects. So put me on pause, blink, and write down your conjugations for preferir, and then we'll check them. All right, so we're going to run into out of room here. So my stem change, oh, let me get my little R in there, happens inside my boot. I'll move you back. And then remember, outside my boot, there is no stem change. And this is my little toe part. Oh, good. So you can see my IEs all through here. all through here. But outside, no change. The tricky part about preferir is that you have to remember this is the lone IR verb. So the endings are a little different. You have your yo that ends in O, and then it follows what ER does all the way through here. But then for nosotros, it goes to IMOS. It goes to its vowel. And then for prefer, do I get my little accent? There it is, preferís. So just remember that these ones are IMOS and IS. So we've got some questions asking about preferences. I want you to take a moment and answer, full sentence, get your verb in there, rock out, but be careful because look at this one. Look at número cuatro. Oh my goodness, Señora made a boo-boo. There it is. ¿Prefieren tus amigos la clase de matemáticas o la clase de ciencias? I'm not asking about you. Who am I asking about? Right, I'm asking about your friends. Do your friends prefer math class or science class? So the subject in questions comes after your verb. Let's look at this one. ¿Qué deporte prefiere tu padre o tu madre? I'm not asking about you in this question either. Remember, look, it doesn't end in an ES, it ends in E. So who am I asking about? Your mom or your dad. So you can pick one. What sport do they prefer? Remember, we're answering with the correct verb form. So give these a shot and I'll check back in with you. All right, some last minute ed puzzle practice. So I've got my subjects, I mixed up my verbs. Let's see if you can do it. Conjugate, and take your time. There's no rush. Conjugate entender for yo. If you wrote yo entiendo, you're a rock star. Awesome. Conjugate tú for cerrar. If you wrote tú cierras, you're golden. There's my stem change. There's my to ending right there. Conjugate empezar for ella. If you wrote ella empieza, perfecto. AR verb, so it's going to end in A. There's my little stem change. So I'm inside the boot. Conjugate pensar for nosotros. Careful, this one is outside the boot. So I needed to not stem change it. Pensamos. No stem change because nosotros is outside my little boot formation. Conjugate querer for vosotros. If you wrote vosotros queréis, oh, whoops, Q-E-R, I'm getting there. Queréis with an accented EIS because it's an ER verb. No stem change, we're outside the boot. If you wrote queréis, then you are muy asombroso. You're super awesome. And the last one, conjugate preferir for ellos. You just did this. If you wrote ellos prefieren, then I am one happy profesora. I hope you have a feliz dia. If you have any problems, let me know. Watch the video again if you need to. Hasta luego.